I started TRT when I was over 450 pounds, not after I lost the weight. And I just want to talk about what it was like starting testosterone at my heaviest, how I feel it affected me in losing over 160 pounds so far. And I want to talk about some things that maybe I don't think a whole lot of other people are talking about. This is just my experience working with a doctor. So first, at 450 pounds, when I think back to the beginning of the year, what life actually felt like for me is, I was exhausted all the time. I had zero drive. I mean, the only thing that I had drive to do was work. Um, Obviously, sex drive was non-existent, and my mood was kind of always negative. Just always, just always like I was just a really negative person, and I didn't just feel big. I felt broken, and I was, and still kind of am. And that's the version of me that decided to reach out for some reason. Now, how this first came up is, look, I actually work in this industry, the concierge health, and wellness kind of space. I don't work for clinics or anything like that, but I know a fair amount about it. So testosterone replacement therapy wasn't, new to me. However, I really didn't think I had a testosterone problem. I really thought a lot of my problems was just because I was, heavy, fat, morbidly obese, whatever you want to say. And the reality was is when I reached out for help, I was actually asking, the conversation started with me asking, well, maybe do you think I should get like a testosterone booster, or something like that, or just something to help me give a little bit more energy. And the medical professional that I work with, she's like, look, I don't think testosterone boosters are going to help you. Let's get some blood work done and let's see what comes back. And that was it. Got the blood test back, and I've shown this before, and I'll show it again. Here's my testosterone levels, and it was bad. It was in the tank, non-existent almost. And look, carrying that much weight for so long, it can absolutely wreak havoc on your hormones. One of the mechanics that happens in your body is fat has a tendency in males to capture testosterone, convert it into estradiol, release a little bit of that estradiol back into the bloodstream, but also hold on to that estradiol. And so, getting on TRT, it was there was going to be a lot of that going on, that conversion process. But getting my testosterone levels up even just a little bit, in my medical professional's opinion, was going to help me immensely. So I want to talk about what it was like getting started because that was fascinating. So, obviously, again, full labs, all that under the supervision of a medical professional. Here's what I noticed in the first few months. I had a little bit more energy. I was a little bit more motivated to move. And the recovery from that activity didn't feel as brutal. It used to be like, if I, had to walk or stand for any more than 5 minutes, like I would be spent for the day. But that started to go away. Now here's, some things that testosterone didn't do. It didn't fix my eating, it didn't erase depression, and it didn't magically make me disciplined. Now, the whole thing about the depression thing, I mean, look, maybe I was depressed. Um, it helps in that area, but there's other things going on that you got to sort out. So it's not like just a magic fix. And so, look, most of all of my weight loss, I should say, has happened while I've been on testosterone replacement therapy. And uh, you know, as the scale started to go down, the number on the scale started to go down. Energy stayed more stable, especially after I started my diet and got into that calorie deficit. Training and working out just felt more productive. Working a lot more. Sleep got a lot better. And look, if you're not getting enough sleep, it doesn't matter what you do, it's absolutely going to uh, play havoc on your hormones. It's going to spike that cortisol, all that good happy stuff. Um, but there's still some hard truths in all this, and no matter what you do, whether it be TRT, whether peptides, GLP-1s, doesn't matter. I still had urges just to go eat. I still had dark days mentally, especially in the first couple of months. I will say this: my experience was like emotional volatility, not violent or anything like that, but when I was having a good day, man, it was great. Everything was perfect. But when I was having a bad day, look out. And you know that emotional roller coaster, that volatility. We're not talking about from day to day. It could go from that extreme high to that extreme low, like a flip of a switch. It was that fast. And basically what was happening though, looking back, my testosterone levels were increasing, but so were my estradiol levels because again, I was still so fat, I was so heavy, I had so much body fat that it was, capturing that free testosterone, converting it into estradiol, some of it releasing, some of it being stored. But at the same time, as I was burning fat, it's the fat that's being burned, the estradiol that is storing, gets released and it goes back into the bloodstream. So one other thing that I think people need to be prepared for is, when you get on TRT, especially when you're overweight, it's a commitment. And what I mean by that is it's not just a commitment to make sure that you're putting the cream on every day, or in my case, I do injections twice a week. It's so much more than that. Especially as you lose weight, you need to have your blood work constantly checked because, look, when it comes to testosterone replacement therapy, it's not about maxing it out. It's about finding that level that you're you again. You've got energy, you've got your sex drive back, you've got your morning wood back, your mood's more stable. And you have to, A, get blood work done, but B, you also have to pay attention to yourself psychologically. You have to, you know, recognize if you're in this funk or this pattern, or you're really really happy all the time, or in some cases if you are starting to get ultra aggressive. It's just this continuous thing that has to be monitored. So for me, luckily we didn't have to make too many tweaks or adjustment, or frequencies, but I also understand that that's also not 100% true for everybody. My dose has come back down a little bit. I'm not as high, but I still feel nice, stable, grounded. What I tell somebody, like if I had to go back in time and tell myself, at 450 plus pounds, thinking about TRT, I go back and I tell myself TRT is not something that you should chase for vanity. You shouldn't think of it as like this magic, fix all solution. It's just a tool in the toolbox. It can help you feel capable enough to put the work in. And uh, keep in mind, it's not going to do the work for you. Tesamorelin, testosterone, all the stuff that I do, it's not about just magically working. I still have to put the work in. What you also need to make sure that you fully understand are some symptoms, right? Again, going back to, you have to be cognizant of what your body's doing, what your mind's doing, how you feel, how you're perceiving things. All of this is very, very important. And also make sure that you get with your doctor and make sure that you understand how often the lab recheck is going to happen. And also, while there's no hard and fast rule for everybody, it really depends on everybody's specific situation. And here's the truth. When it comes to testosterone, there's like a level, like there's a range that the medical community loosely agrees that, yeah, as long as you're within that range, you're normal. But to me, and this is just my opinion, right? I'm not a doctor. This is just my opinion. That's not entirely true. And what I mean by that is it really has to play, things that have to play in there is how do you feel? Do you feel level, balanced, secure, stable, grounded, whatever word you want to use? Are you riding an emotional roller coaster? Are you feeling more anxious or less anxious? Are you getting more aggressive or feel that bubbling violence inside of you? And you kind of got to think back to how you were as a teenager. Are you there? Um, so at any rate, starting TRT at 450 plus pounds, it didn't save me, but it actually helped me show up for myself, and that's the most important thing. The real transformation was losing over that 160 pounds while still dealing with the loose skin, the mental battles that I've talked about, and all the ugly parts. Now, I just want to say, if you've been thinking about getting on TRT, or maybe you just started it, please, if you have any questions, or even if you want to share some of your experience, please drop them in the comment section below. It's the internet. Nobody knows who you are. So with that, I want to get out of here. I want to thank everybody. Have a nice day.